I'll walk through the similarities and then the differences, and then I'll go through each map individually. So first, you will notice that the maps share a couple of following characteristics. First, all communities east of I-205 are in the same district. That district also includes all 4 non-Portland public school districts, so that's Park Rose, David Douglas, Reynolds, and Centennial. The western border of the easternmost district runs along I-205 and 82nd to preserve both Jade District interests and the Lens neighborhood. In addition, you'll notice in the yellow section at the top that neighborhoods along the northern part of Portland are all in a single district together, with the exception of that piece in the Park Rose neighborhood, which is like the northern part of the eastern district. But other than that, neighborhoods in northern Portland are all together. And that includes the north and south sides of Columbia Boulevard being in the same district. In the map, all 3 maps, historic Albina in northeast Portland is preserved in a single district, and all communities west of the Willamette River are in a single district. So that's what's consistent across all 3. The maps also then reflect alternative choices and trade-offs. So with all of these criteria, it's really a matter of weighing them against each other, and sometimes you have to make a decision one way or another. So they demonstrate different decisions. So the west side of the Willamette River, population-wise, is about 20,000 people short of being a quarter of the city's population. So any district that includes the entire west side of the river must also include about 20,000 people from somewhere on the east side of the river. So in the Alder map, that western district crosses in the lower southeast to include the neighborhoods of Selwood, Westmoreland, Eastmoreland, and Reed. In the Cedar map, it crosses along the inner east side to include the central east side industrial council district, parts of the Buckman neighborhood, as well as the Brooklyn and Selwood neighborhoods. And these components share 8 bridge connections across the river, as well as have bus and max line corridors. And then the Maple map crosses in the central east side from I-84 south to Powell to include parts of Buckman and Kearns and parts of Passford Abernathy as well. Another difference across the 3 is the eastern boundary between the north and northeast and the central southeast districts, so between the yellow and teal districts. The Alder map primarily uses neighborhood organization boundaries, which is why it kind of looks like stepping stones there. The Cedar map alternatively uses Sandy Boulevard as a transit boundary, which then divides Hollywood, Rose City Park, and Roseway. And the Maple map uses a bit of both. Rose City Park is in one district, and Roseway is divided by Sandy into 2. So on the next slide, we will do a deep dive into the Alder map. So, and I'll share a little bit about kind of the philosophy behind each of these maps and what led the decision-making process that led to the map themselves. So the Alder map is built around preserving established neighborhood boundaries. So it divides the central city along 3 districts using the Willamette River and I-84 as boundaries. And the intention here is to promote engagement across districts with central city issues and economic opportunities, as well as to distribute the significant assets and institutions in these areas across multiple districts. So you've got like OMSI in one district, the convention center in another, and downtown in another. That's what the Alder map does. In addition here, neighborhoods in lower southeast, so that's Selwood, Eastmoreland, etc., share a district with the demographically and socioeconomically similar communities on the west side of the river and are connected by both the Selwood and the Ross Island Bridge. So that's Alder. On the next slide, we've got Cedar. And the Cedar map boundaries are built around the philosophy of preserving transit corridors. So the guiding philosophy here is that Portlanders intuitively know these transit corridors, and these transit corridors can be a way to prioritize accessible transit in bringing communities together. So in this map, it uses Northeast Sandy, Southeast 12th, and 82nd, and Max lines as some of those transit corridors, which then does divide some of the neighborhoods, right? we're prioritizing transit corridors here. So parts of the Central East Side, Brooklyn and Selwood are in the West District, again, that shares those 8 bridge connections back and forth, and has both bus and MAX corridors to the east. And last but not least is the Maple Map. And the Maple Map is built around keeping much of the central city together, with the exception of Lloyd, the western part of which is part of that historic Albina neighborhood that we decided to keep together up at or that we heard feedback to keep together up at the top. And so the Maple Map is built around keeping the central city together as per the Central City 2035 plan, which includes also several additional East Side neighborhoods. And the rationale here is that the central city includes most of the city's most densely populated and urbanized neighborhoods, where residential and commercial interests are tightly interwoven. And so here, East Side neighborhoods with a high percentage of renters, places like Buckman, Kearns, etc., share a district with West Side renter-heavy neighborhoods like Goose Hollow, Old Town, South Waterfront, etc., as well as other West Side neighborhoods. So those are the maps. And on the next slide, we have questions. We've got questions that we want to hear from you. As you have heard, the IDC, we as a commission are deeply committed to ensuring that the final plan that we produce is reflective of the priorities of Portlanders of all backgrounds, with a specific focus on creating an equitable and inclusive process. So now that these 3 draft maps have been released for public input, we are committed to engaging even more Portlanders to hear your feedback, opinions, questions, concerns, reactions. The numbers that Commissioner Lumley shared were as of May 30th. So you can imagine in the 5 or 6 weeks since then, those numbers have become much, much higher, which we are really grateful for and energized by. Because this community input is integral to us convening around a final district map in August. And we really think of this as a fundamental, or an opportunity for all of us collectively to fundamentally shape our city government for the better. The gravity of this task really cannot be understated. As you heard, these maps will be in place until after the 2030 census, when the next redistricting happens, and will also be used for city council elections in November of next year. So it's an exciting opportunity, and we're grateful that y'all are here. It is our hope that these 3 maps prompt reactions and reflections, like truly the questions behind me are what we want to hear from you, about how you most want to be represented in City Hall. So while we know that some of what we presented today might be unfamiliar or technical, we do hope that this presentation gave you a better understanding of our work and how we got to where we